Okay, go nalowooza nti ensonga zirabika zaggwa, ensonga z'eggwanga Uganda zirabika zeeyongera kwonooneka buli lukya. Ekitongole ky'ensi yonna yonna ekya European Union, rather ekya United Nations, kyavuddeyo ne kyogera ku nsonga z'eggwanga lya Uganda oba amagye g'eggwanga lya Uganda aga UPDF okwetaba mu nsonga z'eggwanga lya South Sudan omwali okuttiramu abantu abawerako. Now, European Union yo naye erabika tennatuula.
Set out a clear signal for clean, secure energy in Europe. Thank you.
And the last speaker before Catch the Eye is Mr. Barry Andrews for 1 minute, please.
Thank you, Madam President, Commissioner and colleagues. I very much welcome the plan arrived at the North Sea Summit to dramatically ramp up renewable energy in the North Sea with joint European projects and the plans around increased generation in the time frame. I think this can provide a pathway to cost sharing for the rest of Europe and indeed for the highlighted energy pathways. And I think the political point I would make is that it gives us an opportunity to remind the EIB that we need to put pressure on them to provide more risk around frontier technologies, to provide more balance sheet innovation in order to fund these developments. We obviously need more cheaper and more reliable energy, and I think we are able to give more certainty for turbine makers, for example, and we should remind Wind Europe that they have committed to deliver a 30% decrease in production costs on the basis of the political commitments made at the summit. So let's keep the pressure on. Let's make sure that we can deliver renewable, cheap energy and make sure that we can inoculate this continent from future fossil fuel price shocks. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So now we come to Catch the Eye, and today I only have a few speakers, so you will all be able to speak, those of you who ask for it. Beginning with Mr. Christoph Hetman, seat 487, please. We need to have some help with the microphone. Try 485 instead. Could you maybe please help? Yeah. Well, we're looking into this. So, Mr. Hetman, maybe we can check and we can take the next one and get back to you then, if it's okay. Yeah, you will be next. So the next speaker will be Ms. Gabriela Ferreira, seat 466. Hopefully we are more lucky here.
Thank you, Chair. Commissioner, colleagues, the success in the North Sea is laudable. However, we cannot ignore the social reality in the East. In Romania, over 70% of our citizens have started this year with a deep fear regarding the cost of life and the volatile prices of energy. The Romanian government had to come up with a new emergency ordinance to keep the ceilings for the gas prices until January 2027. Romania can be a guarantor for Europe's energy stability, but it might also benefit from the cheap energy produced in the Black Sea. Neptune Deep is making progress. The first extraction is programmed for 2027. We shall thus become the Union's largest producer. Now we need products and projects that focus on household production first. We need preparation because all prices are going up. We need ceilings everywhere because this is no time for speculation. It is not necessary to look at how people get richer.
Now we will try Mr. Hetman again. Seat 489, please.
Okay. Dziękuję bardzo, Pani Przewodnicząca.
Thank you very much, Madam President, Commissioner. This summit for the Northern Sea shows that Europe can act together when it comes to our security and new technologies. I would like to highlight how important the offshore projects on the Baltic are, or indeed investment in nuclear energy in Poland, for example. We are risking damage that comes to us because of the geopolitical tensions, so we need to invest in our safe energy. It's also very important for our security and our competitiveness. Europe cannot trust in its future only based itself on the others. We need our own sources. We need to focus on our infrastructure. We need more investment in research. The offshore wind parks is not just clean technology. It's also a chance for cheap energy, reliable energy to our industry. They are really important. They can do it. We have to cooperate on offshore wind energy and on the transmission channels. Thank you.
With the microphone. And the next speaker is Mr. Tynkkynen, seat 210, please.
Arvoisa puhemies.
Madam President, the attack launched by Russia revealed Europe's energy dependency. The noise of howitzers woke up European decision makers from their sleep, during which they had let Putin's gas pipelines wrap around their necks like a boa constrictor. Now Europe is talking of self-sufficiency, and that is good. Last year in Europe, investments in wind power climbed to 45 billion euros, and there are massive plans for the future. Wind power should be supported as long as decision makers remember that geopolitical dependency must not turn into dependency on the weather. Europe should not rely on wind too much. Alongside wind power, we need a large amount of stable regulating energy, the kind that is not reliant on weather. Nuclear power, hydropower, burning peat, coal and wood for energy. These are forms of energy we cannot let the Greens steal. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And the last speaker is Mr. Billy Kelleher, seat 9, please.
I welcome the outcome of the Hamburg Declaration and the signing by the countries in the precincts of the North Sea, and Ireland was a signatory to that declaration as well. It's quite ambitious, Commissioner, 300 gigawatts by 2050 from wind energy in the North Sea area. And from my perspective, it means that we not only have to announce and outline what we're going to do, but we have to follow through with regard to timelines and the monitoring of member states. Clearly, this is not just about transitioning, it's also about making Europe resilient, less reliant on fossil fuels from the areas that we can no longer geopolitically depend on. But more importantly, we need to get competitive. And to be competitive, we have to have cheaper electricity for industries and equally for our homes as well. So while we welcome this, we have to ensure that there is a strong monitoring. From an Irish perspective, we still have significant challenges, Commissioner, in the area of planning and permitting, and also we need greater connectivity to the UK and then obviously into the European Union itself as well. So we would appreciate those commitments in the Hamburg Declaration.
Thank you very much, dear colleague. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much, all of you. And now we'll give the floor back to Commissioner Dan Jørgensen to close the debate, please.
So, around 1,000 years ago, Vikings ruled the North Sea. A lot of people don't know why it was that they were so successful. They went to America 500 years before Columbus. They went to Greenland. How could they do this? Well, the answer, they were the first to deploy sails to their ships. It was very difficult back then. It took as long for them to make the sails for the ships as it took to build the actual ships. But they exploited the wind, and it made them successful. So, today, we need to learn from the Vikings. Let's exploit the winds of the North Sea. The potential is huge. Back in 1991, Denmark built the first offshore wind farm in the world. Back then, a lot of people were shaking their heads. Surely that's way too expensive a way to make energy. But today, offshore wind competes in price with almost any other energy source on the planet, certainly with the fossil alternatives. So, offshore wind needs to be a cornerstone in our green transition to make us safe, to secure our energy supplies, to make us independent, to lower the prices, to decarbonize our economies and fight climate change. And we can do this, but it will not happen if we do not recognize that we do have some challenges. First and foremost, our grids. We need to expand our grids. We need huge investments. We need faster permitting. We need better cost sharing. And we need better planning. So, fortunately, we've put forward a plan to change these things. We put forward a plan and a strategy to make this possible. So I urge you in the European Parliament to support this plan, give us good advice to make it even better, but support us in this endeavor. Also, I will put forward a plan for electrification later this year, a plan for heating and cooling, a plan for digitalization and AI. So we've got a lot of work ahead of us that is, of course, related to today's discussion. But thank you so much for the input. I look very much forward to the work in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. Let's learn from the Vikings, but hopefully only when it comes to wind. The debate is closed. Thank you very much, and then we will move slowly on to the next topic, and we change the commissioners. So the next item on the agenda is the Council and Commission statements, Savings and Investments Union, time to accelerate the process to deepen market integration. And as always, with a combination of statements, we will begin with the Council, and I will therefore give the floor to Deputy Minister for European Affairs, Ms. Rauna. Please, the floor is yours.
President, honourable members, Commissioner, today's debate comes at a crucial moment for Europe's economic future. The Savings and Investment Union is not merely a technical dossier. It is a political project central to Europe's competitiveness, to our strategic autonomy, and to our ability to deliver prosperity for our citizens. Deepening Europe's capital markets is essential to finance our transitions, support innovation, and ensure that savings work better for people. The European Council has repeatedly underlined the urgency of this work. Our leaders have been clear. Our union must deepen market integration and deliver concrete progress now. This political guidance reflects a shared recognition that the global environment is changing rapidly, with challenges increasing, and that Europe cannot afford to stand still. The Presidency is fully aligned with this sense of urgency. That is why we have placed the Savings and Investments Union at the top of our agenda. We are committed to advancing a stronger, more integrated financial system that can mobilize private capital at scale. This is a shared political responsibility, and it requires close cooperation amongst all institutions. From the outset of our presidency, we have launched an ambitious and accelerated work programme. We are holding meetings frequently and working diligently to advance all parts of the Savings and Investment Union. We are pushing ahead with the market integration and supervision package, which is essential to remove barriers, reduce fragmentation, and create a genuine single market for capital, facilitating savings flowing efficiently into productive investments. The Presidency remains fully committed to making decisive and swift progress on this important file, considering it is a central piece of the current efforts for deepening European capital market. Yesterday's exchange at ECOFIN confirmed that the Presidency's approach and proposed work stream is supported by Member States. Ministers underlined their strong support for the objectives of the Savings and Investment Union and broadly acknowledged that advancing this agenda would be key to mobilizing private savings and channeling them towards productive investment across the Union. Overall, the policy debate highlighted both the importance of making swift progress towards an agreement and at the same time the need to ensure high-quality outcome. We are also advancing work on supplementary pensions, recognizing the importance of boosting citizens' retirement income, ensuring that Europeans can save and invest with confidence, and that long-term savings can be channeled more effectively into the real economy. These files are part of a broader political effort to build a stronger financial architecture for Europe. I would like to acknowledge the work already undertaken by the European Parliament. Your reports, debates, and political engagement have helped shape the direction of the Savings and Investment Union and have kept this topic high on the European agenda. The Presidency greatly values this contribution and sees Parliament as an essential partner in driving this project forward. Let me also underline that this commitment and readiness is matched by the Council. We already hold negotiating mandates on securitization and on the digital euro. This means that politically and technically, the Council is prepared to enter interinstitutional negotiations without delay. As soon as the Parliament adopts its negotiating positions, we can begin trilogues immediately. Honourable members, the Savings and Investment Union is a cornerstone of our economic strategy and of our joint effort for strategic autonomy. Accelerating progress in its implementation is in the interest of our citizens, businesses, the Union as a whole. We must continue to work together to deliver a deeper, more integrated financial market that supports investment, strengthens resilience, and enhances Europe's global standing. The Council stands ready to continue engaging constructively and swiftly. Let us seize this moment to advance the Savings and Investment Union and deliver the benefits that European citizens expect. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Deputy Minister. And the next speaker is for the Commission, Executive Vice President Sessionet. Please, the floor is yours.
Merci, Madame la Présidente.
Thank you, Madame President, Madame Minister, ladies and gentlemen. 1 year after our strategy for the Savings Investments Union was launched, I'd like to thank you for organising this debate this week. This project has been led by Commissioner Albuquerque, and it's a key pillar of our competitiveness strategy for a stronger, more resilient, more independent Europe. It's to allow for prosperity and so that citizens can benefit from wealth creation. This is first and foremost a political project. The Commission in March 2025 presented an ambitious strategy. After that, we put in place all of the key aspects of the Capital Markets Union. In June, we adopted legislative proposals to launch securitization again in Europe. In September, we published a recommendation for savings accounts and investments and a strategy to promote financial culture. In October, the Commission adopted measures to encourage investments. Insurers, banks and infrastructure companies. In November, a package to bolster additional pensions. And in December, we presented the market supervision and integration package. So these will now be subject to negotiations between the Council and Parliament. It is up to Member States to look at the recommendations we've already put together as part of the strategy, especially on the supplementary pensions, because we want to mobilise capital, but also ensure that there are savings for people's retirements. We want to mobilise capital in Europe. This is a mechanism to organise capital markets, but also it's a way of fueling the new European system with capital. This also deals with looks at simplified taxation for savings investment accounts. That model will attract more investment, especially in the capital markets. It will also diversify sources of financing and will optimize savings. And in that framework, I'd like to come back to the market integration package. Now, that's the last text that was presented by the European Commission. The capital markets are underdeveloped and fragmented, and they are not big enough to support investment. That weakens our competitiveness and our standing at international level. Now, this market integration and supervision package presented in December leads off from several main principles. First of all, a single capital market on a large scale. That is essential for growth and competitiveness in Europe. In terms of objectives, it seeks to remove barriers to the integration of national markets, cross-border operations, funding innovation, and this package will allow us to remove barriers which prevent financial actors from scaling up and from being more competitive and from being able to engage in cross-border business. Interconnection is also important, and eliminating barriers to supervision is also one of the key targets and key priorities of this Commission. The success will be measured based on 3 criteria: how quick it is, how ambitious it is, and how consistent it is. Here in this hemicycle, I've already spoken about the internal market, the roadmap, one Europe, one market, and the President of the Commission, Ms. von der Leyen, announced the objectives here in this Parliament. Now, obviously, there's the geopolitical situation and the economic situation. We need to be ambitious and show that we are ambitious on the timeline and also on the substance. Integrating capital markets is always being promoted by this House, and it perhaps contrasts with some reluctance at the Council. We need to be ambitious and move swiftly and construct a capital markets union for the future. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much for that. The next speaker is the first on the first round of political group speakers, and that is Mr. Markus Ferber for 2 minutes on behalf of EPP, please.
Thank you very much indeed, Madam President, Commissioner, representative of the Council, colleagues. Europe's capital market is still fragmented, and for our companies, that really provides them with a disadvantage. Lower liquidity, higher financing costs, and that's also the reason why stock exchanges and securitization activities take place in London and New York rather than in Paris, Amsterdam or Dublin. So we need more market integration for financial service provision, and that needs to be at the heart of what we do. And the European Commission's proposal takes us in the right direction. Now, the Parliament wants to deliver on this quickly. It's our ambition to wrap up the procedure in-house by the end of the year so that Europe can have results to show for it quickly. Now, legislation is a precondition for all of this, but of course we also need to make sure that real existing cross-border obstacles are done away with. Tax obstacles, for example, impeding investments, and we also need restructuring and insolvency frameworks. If you want to mobilize markets, you need to overcome these hurdles and obstacles. Now, Commissioner, we also need controls that take markets seriously, and we need European champions that are possible. So DG competition needs to be on board. We can't have regulatory obstacles to market integration being done away with, but then basically DG competition stopping cross-border activities and throwing up obstacles to it. And to Council, I have this plea. Please be as ambitious as we are in Parliament so that we can have good solutions, not just when it comes to the timing, but also when it comes to the substance. And then hopefully in a couple of years' time we can meet again based on better figures. Thank you very much.
Speaker is on behalf of S&D, and Ms. Leluc for 1 minute, please.
Madame la Présidente.
Madam President, Mr. Vice President, Madam Minister, our European savings are financing American tech growth, whilst our own companies are struggling to find financing. This massive transfer is no longer just an economic error, it's a strategic and geopolitical mistake. We need to bring our savings back. Yes, the Savings and Investment Union is necessary. We need an integrated financial market, and above all, we need European supervision in one single place. I'm happy to hear that from Council and Commission you will move swiftly and Parliament will adopt a similar agenda. This is all very well, but we have been speaking about the Savings and Capitals Union for a great length of time. It is necessary, but it is a means to the end of financing a real economy. We need to be consistent, and if it is concluded, then it needs to fund our businesses in line with what has been recently announced. We need to give priority to Made in Europe. Thank you.
Gyuri for 1 minute on behalf of Patriots.
Thank you, colleagues. A year ago, the Commission published its Savings and Investments Union strategy. We've seen a few draft proposals, but that's quite a weak result in my view. In the Budapest Declaration, the heads of state and government said that European citizens and businesses need to have better access to capital markets. And we know that Brussels works very slowly. They prefer to focus on Ukraine and restricting Russian energy, which impedes our competitiveness. And then companies go overseas because the investment opportunities are better there, and we lose that business. We need to remove the obstacles, and we need to create a European capitals market which is harmonized for all member states, regardless of the amount of capital available, so that ideology is not the basis for it, but market needs. But member state competence need to be safeguarded when it comes to market supervision and taxation. We can't see a situation where the markets are put in danger. It will only be successful if every single member state and every single market participant is dealt with in the same way. This is what we were fighting for as patriots. Thank you.
Yeah, the next speaker is Mr. Crosetto for 1 minute, please.
Grazie, Presidente.
Thank you, Madam President. Integrating capital markets is a primary objective for the EU because billions every year are being invested outside of the EU, and billions continue to be blocked on bank accounts. And it's therefore important to be effective and speedy in our work, but we need a realistic timeline for negotiations. We need to improve ESMA's role to avoid fragmentation, but at the same time it's important to have structural involvement of competent national authorities too. Just to give you an example, to date, the management and the consequences of a crisis for supervision is carried out at national level to a large extent. And amongst other things, that's why we want a pragmatic and gradual approach. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And on behalf of Renew Group, the next speaker is Ms. Van Brugg for 1 minute, please.
Voorzitter, commissaris.
President, Commissioner, Europe is full of talent. Everywhere we have startups popping up with clever ideas and technologies which make our economy stronger and make us less dependent on others. But all too often we say the same thing happen, which is that a company starts in Europe, grows a bit, and then decamps to another country because they can't secure enough funding back home to continue their growth. If we want strong European companies and if we want to be competitive, we need to start with the startups. They need to be able to secure enough funding, not at the start only, but also when they want to continue their growth. And that's why European capital markets now finally need to be put in order. It's only in doing so that the Netherlands and Europe can continue to be strong in today's world. Fewer rules and differences between countries, more investment, and above all, more opportunities for our companies to continue their growth here. Because we have the talent in Europe. Now we just need to make sure that the funding follows. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And on behalf of the Green Groups, Mr. Böselager, for 1 minute, please.
Colleagues, the war in Iran is more than thousands of kilometers away, but the impact that we feel on our economy is immediate. Around 20% of the world's oil passes through the Strait of Hormuz, and when it stopped, the oil prices, of course, increase. We see a 10% increase in oil prices raises the inflation of the euro area by 0.3 percentage points. So we know that there's an immediate impact. And I think it's just another way to show that our economy by now is a question of sovereignty. So I think it's not enough that the proposals by the European Commission are actually not strong enough to really build a capital markets union. And it's not enough that the councils, so the national ministers, stop the capital markets union every step of the way. And we don't really see the big push that we need to see to have deeper capital market in Europe. I think what we should be doing is really make it more attractive to invest in venture capital also nationally. We should make sure that our pensions and institutional investors invest in innovation across the continent, and we should consider European bonds to stabilize inflation. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And on behalf of the Left Group, Ms. Martins, for 1 minute, please. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam President. Commissioner, we shouldn't play about with pensions. These are the savings of someone who's saved their whole lives for a time when there's very little support. To subject the most exposed pensioners to the roulettes of financial markets is irresponsible, and I hope we put a stop to it. We are seeing more tax benefits for investment funds that are attracting investors because of the tax perks. We're basically giving more to those who already have a lot and letting banks sell products that are not profitable. And it gets worse. We're suggesting that we mobilize savings for high-risk areas, so people run the risk of losing their life savings, everything, to finance war. We know what you're trying to get to. You want to privatize public pension systems, and I hope that there's at least one benefit to this debate, alerting our populations to the very strong need to object to the Commission's plans.
This was the first round on behalf of political groups, and therefore I will now open up for the blue card option and invite you to use it. And the next speaker is Ms. Pereira for 1.5 minutes, please.
Muito obrigada, Senhora Presidente.
Thank you very much, Madam President. Speed up, simplify and empower. These are the 3 preconditions for completing the savings and investment union and giving our competitiveness new life. We've lost a great deal of time, and that means that we're losing scale. Europe needs an investment shock. We need quality public investment, but above all, private innovation-focused investment in ideas being turned into startups and into big European businesses. First of all, we need to tackle our problem at the root, which is fragmentation. The integration and supervision package is a good opportunity, and it rightly identifies the cost of rule duplication and the inefficiency of 27 different legal realities for the same line of activity. I stress the urgent need for simplification. We need to speed up. Second, we need to scale up the retail side and lower the cost of capital. We need simpler, more accessible, truly European products with real incentives and portability. We need to simplify. Third, we need confidence and financial literacy. Families and businesses cannot yet participate in these efforts, but they need to be protagonists. We need to empower them. The Savings and Investment Union cannot be an empty slogan. It has to become a pillar of our commitment to our competitiveness and to our prosperity. Therefore, Commissioner, Council, we have no time to lose. Thank you.
There is a blue card. Do you want to take it from Mr. Oliveira? Please.
Thank you, President. I have three very direct questions for Lydia Pereira. If private pension funds and complementary pension systems are so profitable and such a good idea, why do they need public financing through tax benefits and mobilization of other resources from the state and from workers? Second, if these solutions are so safe, why do we need to roll back prudential rules in the financial sector that were introduced after the financial crisis precisely to protect people? Third, if this is such a decisive matter, economically speaking, then why do we need to sack the resources of public social security systems? Thank you very much, honourable colleague. Well, I have very little time to answer these three questions, so I will give a more general answer, and perhaps I'll reply with another question. How do you, dear colleague, want to respond to the challenges of an ageing Europe whilst guaranteeing that the coming generations have a better life than previous generations? It seems to me that we absolutely must move forward with the Capital Markets Union. Here is being given a different focus, the Savings and Investment Europe. That's the only way that we can guarantee that people from my generation and your generation can aspire to a brilliant future like our parents and grandparents had.
Fernandez, for 1 minute, please.
Presidenta. Thank you, President, Vice President, Council. There is no better strategy for increasing competitiveness and growth in the European economy than bolstering our single market. The Letter report, the Draghi report, all the debates in this House and outside this House for too long have been focused on eliminating barriers in the internal market and consolidating Europe in the form of one market. The Vice President spoke about the roadmap, and that was presented in September. We've seen 5 months go by, and we're still waiting. We hope over the next few weeks we will have the agenda that the Commission decided to start by consolidating the capital markets. Banking Union and the Capital Markets Union are fated by the Socialists and Democrats. And this is because we need to give more power to European supervisors, we need more ambition, and we hope that our colleagues here in this House will be supporting us in this endeavour. Thank you.
Next speaker is Mr. Biotech for 1 minute, please.
Szanowni Państwo,
colleagues, we know that the objective of this famous program of investments and savings is to encourage our citizens to invest their savings. But the fact is that risk is higher than in the case of, for instance, classic banking deposits. Poles were brutally confronted with many problems like cashback in recent months. Can you Can you ensure them that this will not happen again? Or do you want more monies from them, even though they have to find their own crisis with home bills? You've ruined the finances in Poland. You've never listened to those who said no to your ideas and decisions. So I would like to repeat, we don't want such programs. We don't want another piece of regulation that won't work. Bank should finalize what brings our jobs and money, and not another idea that will just destroy our economies. You have no better ideas to improve our economies. You come up with a mechanism that will ruin the lives of our citizens. Because of your decisions, we become one of the examples of third world. So hands back from our savings.
Please, Mr. Sieper, seat 840.
Thank you, Ms. Vice President. I would also like to state that, if I understood the colleague correctly, he talked about dirty hands of the Commission. I don't know that. If
one second, we just need.
But my question,
Mr. Sieper, we just need to make sure that we have the right translation. Is it okay now? Perfect.
Yeah,
please
good.
Start all over.
Thank you, colleague, for accepting the blue card. You asked the Commission and I think the broader chamber if they can guarantee that the bad things about the savings that you described won't happen. So my question to you is, you as a legislator, have you ever in your life, in your political career, drafted a law where you could guarantee that there would not be any bad consequences? And is this really the right question to ask when it comes to one of the most important financial political files that we have this year? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Biotech.
Well, very good question, actually, because it refers to the budget of European families. It's about monies that will be used to finance future programs in the EU. And what do we protect here? I think we should protect our citizens and their money. And any proposal whereby you will create risky programs where you have to incur a liability or encourage your citizens to invest in markets that are high-risk markets, well, I don't approve of that. I think we should be informing our citizens. It's my first term of office in politics and here. So, no, I've never drafted a law like that before.
Sieper, you want to follow up? Today we have time, so it's okay.
Lovely. Thank you very much. So, colleague, I mean, as you're in your first legislative period, once again, I will ask, do you think it is possible to craft any law while guaranteeing that there will not be bad consequences of that law? And do you think asking that question to the Commission and the Parliament is the right approach?
Yes, I think this is the right approach. And if you want to maybe find an answer to your question, listen to my speech once again.
Ms. Malauk, for 1 minute, please.
Szanowni Państwo, wszyscy chcemy...
Ladies and gentlemen, we all want stronger European economy, more investment and more capital for our companies. The integration of capital markets can be helpful. However, we often hear that Europe should be as the United States, but we tend to forget that there is a major difference between us and the US. Over there, the single financial market has been built for almost 200 years. One market, one set of rules, one culture of investments. In Europe, it's completely different. 27 markets, 27 traditions of economy, 27 financial systems. It cannot be centralized by a couple of directives. So, is centralization going to result in more investment? No, unfortunately. The problem is not just market fragmentation. It's also over-regulation and the green ideology that puts brakes on our investment, makes them go somewhere else and destroys our economy. There's also a difference in mentality. In the US, risk is part of the investment culture. Here in Europe, people want to protect their savings. So I'm afraid this union is going to increase the powers of Brussels and it will be detrimental to the competition.
Yes, Mr. Uder, for 1 minute, please.
Madam President, Commissioner, colleagues, given the current complexity of the global economic environment and heightened geopolitical uncertainty, the European Union should focus much more on policy priorities which are entirely in its hands. And the single most important among them is the single market. Europe can create a lot of economic momentum from internal sources simply by removing obstacles which lead to fragmentation. Goods, services, and capital, all three lose a significant amount of time and money when crossing borders between member states. There is no true European market in many important areas. Fragmentation rules. The Savings and Investment Union is especially important since there are no shortages of savings in the EU. The problem is that there is no mechanism efficient enough to channel available funds towards badly needed productive investments. Unfortunately, progress has been slow, ambitions limited, and negotiations too long. We cannot blame our competitors for not doing our homework. It's time to act now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So the next speaker is Mr. Oliveira. For 1 minute, please.
Thank you, President. Mr. Commissioner Séjourné, what guarantees workers' rights to pensions are public social security systems that are universal and built on solidarity. They need to be robust and financially sustainable. That's guaranteed through three factors: more work, giving more people contributing, less labour precarity, and higher wages that bring higher contributions. Beyond other measures to strengthen our public social security systems that add to this, what we're discussing today has nothing to do with workers' rights or interests. This is not a savings and investment union that we're talking about. This is a union to launch an attack on public social security, on pensions, and on savings. These proposals have been considered based on the interests of financial groups that have interests in the capital markets, and that's why they're trying to use social security funds to finance private pensions funds, savers being launched into the roulette of financial speculation, and pensions can disappear overnight. We've seen this before. These proposals would not serve the interests of workers.
From Mr. Ronza, do you want to take it? Please, seat 274, please.
Tak, dziękuję.
Thank you very much. I am very touched by your sensitivities on the labor market, on our workers, their well-being. It's very important also for me as a conservatist. But many people do not have a lifelong contract, labor contract. They have many different contracts, not very often very good for them. So what kind of opinion do you have about the debt that the US is making for the SAFE program, for the Ukraine war? What do you see the future of those debt that the EU is taking on it?
Well, the colleague asked a great number of different questions. I'll try to respond directly on what's related to this debate. Now, the rights to pensions of current workers who are tomorrow's pensioners is based on a robust social security systems, and the contributions of workers that work today is what safeguards the sustainability of these systems in the future. And that's why the three things that I mentioned are essential. We need more employment, less unemployment. We need more people contributing and fewer people needing social support. Then we need to limit labour precariousness, and we need higher wages, which will lead to higher contributions.
Thank you. For the next speaker is Ms. Benjumea for 1.5 minutes, please.
Thank you very much, Madam President, Commissioner, Council. Europe saves a lot but doesn't invest much, and this is corroborated by the fact that there are billions in savings accounts in Europe. Capital is here, but it's not being invested, and Europe does not have the investments to face its challenges, and often companies need to go abroad to get funding. An action plan was launched by the Commission to mobilize savings. That's 5 And 5 years later, as rapporteur in this Parliament, I warned that Europe needed much more ambition on this. And therefore, it's good that the Commission has decided to take on this ambition, but we expect the same ambition from the Council. And I will continue mentioning that the Savings and Investments Union is designed for savers, for SMEs, so that people can get the most yield, the biggest yield from their savings. An idea can be converted into work, technology can also see our citizens' lives improved. And in the Capital Markets Union, in my view, we need 5 urgent changes. Firstly, we need to eliminate national barriers. These penalise our companies, especially those that want to grow. Secondly, we need more regulatory clarity. And we also need to boost financial education. Fourthly, we need to adopt tax incentives for investment. And fifthly, we must improve the investment ecosystem so that we can mobilize private capital. We've lost a lot of time, and we don't have much time left. So I call on the Council to be ambitious and provide a proper plan. Thank you.
Problem, but it seems as if it's solved now. And the next speaker is Mr. Assis. For 1 minute, please.
Muito obrigado, Senhora Presidente.
Thank you, Madam President. Commissioner, this is not a new problem, and I would say that we more or less agree on the diagnostic. Europe saves, but then invests very little. We need more public investment and more private investment. The idea of channeling savings into investment is what led to the creation of a specific product in 2019, a savings product. But it's clear now that it did not meet the objectives hoped for. It is clear what needs to be done. We need greater risk and a more fertile environment for those who wish to invest. By way of politics, we need ambitious policy, but we also need to be realistic. The culture of risk from the US is not going to grow in European minds. We can't deal with that risk aversiveness. We need to give confidence to those who want safety and security. It's an absolutely legitimate expectation. Let's be clear. Big losses will always be politically and socially unacceptable, be this to public pension systems or private products. We need to draft legislation for real societies with its drawbacks and considerations. We are always available to discuss this.
Mr. Assis, do you want to take a blue card? From Mr. Oliveira, and this is the last one you're getting in this debate, please. Thank you.
Thank you for your consideration, Madam President.
Mr. Assis, you mentioned the risk involved in all of this savings and investment dynamics, particularly when it comes to pension funds and pensions. I have a question on that. Given the risky aspects that you identified and the need to bear in mind all the implications of decisions such as this one, how do you square this with the proposal from the European Commission to have workers automatically being signed up for complementary pension schemes? How is it possible that we have a system where pensions are at risk of speculation in private pension funds? How can workers be forced to sign up to these complementary pension systems? This is very far removed from defending workers' rights. I was wondering why I hadn't yet been struck by that question. I'm very happy to answer. I want to stress that there is a safety dimension here, and that needs to be sufficiently developed. That is fundamental for me. We're not going to suddenly become a society like that in the US, and that's not desirable either. We have a different culture in Europe in terms of economic behavior, and that culture should be valued and focused on. When it comes to the Commission's proposals, we think that they can be discussed and in some ways amended if that means that we can get consensus. Thank you.
Yes, I welcome the decision of the EU leaders on the 19th and the 20th of February to accelerate the completion of the Savings and Investment Union. And indeed, when you listen to the debate here, it's quite clear that this particular project will have to work from the centre out again. And I'd urge those to come out of their ideological cabins and look at what we're trying to do here, which is effectively using private capital to invest in projects, in infrastructural development, in stimulating the acceleration of small and medium-sized businesses, and in creating job opportunities across the European Union. It's about making Europe more competitive. And I cannot understand why people on the left or people on the extreme right could object to the concept of making Europe more competitive and creating job certainty. So I would urge all concerned to look at this from the purpose of what it is about. And certainly, if we have an opportunity to debate this in the near future, we should also look at it in the context of the Draghi report and what is highlighted with regard to the deficiencies in the investment gap. We certainly do not need any further political stagnation, bureaucratic paralysis. What we need now is action to bring forward the Savings and Investment Union. And if those countries that are too slow to move with this, we do need to move ahead without them, but still encourage them to stay in our coattails so they can eventually catch up. Thank you.
The next speaker is Danuta Nerudova.
Colleagues, Europe is not short of savings. It is short of investments. Every year, billions of euros leave Europe because our capital markets remain fragmented. At the same time, our companies struggle to access the financing they need. We need deeper market integration, fewer national barriers, and smarter regulation that actually unlocks the capital. That also means looking seriously at the role of the pension funds. Properly deregulated and enabled to invest more broadly across the borders, they can become powerful long-term investors in Europe's economy. Europe's savings should finance Europe's future, our innovation, our transition, and our competitiveness. The capital is here, in the European Union. Now we must remove the barriers that prevent it from working for our Europe. Thank you.
The next speaker is Thomas Bayada.
We have not yet successfully created a single market that is adapted to the different European realities and that is able to compete in the global scene. The real struggle lies in the first step, building a genuine European investor culture. This requires building trust in the system, strengthening financial literacy, and creating transparent and tangible opportunities. Opportunities that are accessible to ordinary citizens so that they can invest directly and be part of the game, to be able to enhance their financial independence and unlock their aspirations for the future. And for this to happen, we must change the rules to give priority to our retail investors. And we cannot underestimate the value of investing in educating our people. We, as policymakers, must do everything in our power to facilitate, to create the right conditions, and to foster a financially educated population that is ready to seize the opportunities and to access instruments that we specifically design for them. Let us place our citizens at the heart of the Savings and Investments Union. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Engin Erolu.
Ja, sehr geehrte Frau. Thank you very much, Madam Vice President, Minister, Commissioner Séjourné. Thank you very much for being here today in Parliament. We need a savings and investments union. Why? Because millions of Europeans invest their money on the stock exchange, and they could lose all of their money because someone believes they need to start a war. We need to allow people to invest their money in Europe. We saw this in 2007 and 2008. Many Europeans bought these bad bonds from the United States, and then they ended up in financial difficulty. And we shouldn't just pursue the well-intentioned path of the Green Deal. No, we need an ambitious savings and investment union which focuses on competitiveness, which focuses on economic cooperation and not just ideology. Therefore, we need a better than a one-size-fits-all approach. No, we need to see lots of diversity. Thank you.
Vielen Dank. The next speaker, der nächste Redner ist Ralf Sickert.
Thank you. Mr. Rekatz is the next speaker.
Frau Präsidentin.
President, dear colleagues, Europe is facing major challenges, but also has major opportunities. We need more capital for investment in our economic future. That's clear. A savings and investment union can mobilize the savings potential of Europe's citizens, and if it is to be decided, it can also lead to progress on the integration of capital markets, because that progress has been too slow. Now, unfortunately, the Commission's proposal is still too complicated and too bureaucratic in many passages. There are different national rules, there's unnecessary red tape, and that puts a brake on the use of capital where it's most needed. We need deep, integrated capital markets so that SMEs have access to financing, and at the same time it gives attractive opportunities to savers. It's time to act now. We need to be serious about this. The EU cannot fall back on isolation, so we need proposals from the Commission which are practical and can be implemented. Thank you.
And now I pass the floor to Regina Doherty.
Thank you, Madam President. Colleagues, we know that Europe doesn't lack savers. What we lack is a system capable of putting those savings to work. European households have almost 10 trillion worth of savings in low-yield bank accounts, often earning very little money and steadily eroded by inflation, while many of our most innovative companies still struggle to access the capital that they need to grow and to scale in Europe. And too often these companies end up looking to the United States or indeed the United Kingdom for funding. And that really should be a wake-up call for all of us. If we're serious about delivering the Savings and Investment Union, well then I believe Ireland's presidency can play a practical and constructive role. Firstly, Ireland is home to one of Europe's largest international financial services ecosystems. We have strong funds and asset management sectors. Ireland already channels investments from around the world into European markets, so we can build on this expertise to deepen capital markets and make cross-border investment simpler. Secondly, we need stronger pathways from savings to productive investment. Europe should do far more to channel household savings and pension funds into financing our start-ups and scale-ups, ensuring that our own savings are supporting European innovation, infrastructure and our green and digital transitions. But we need to do more at a local level, at a national level. Irish people want to invest and grow their savings, yet our system is too often so difficult that they'd rather keep it in the savings account. Irish people are trying to invest in ETFs, yet the deemed disposal rule acts as a stealth task and discourages long-term investment. That rule needs to go, and it needs to go now. The reality is simple. Europe already has the capital it needs to grow our businesses. What we now need is the political will to make that a reality. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Doherty. And now we pass to the Catch the Eye, and I'm happy that I can say that we can take all the requests for Catch the Eye this time. So I first pass the floor to Vytenis Povilas Andriukaitis for 1 minute, please.
Thank you, Madam President. Commissioner, we are lagging behind. This is true. Strategies have been drafted. They concern innovations. They speak about industry, about added value. But we also have to speak about capital markets, because we are losing on many fronts. We are discussing Biotech, the Biotech Act. It is very important for our health, but we also need financial mechanisms in order to implement it. The Savings and Investments Union would be one of the elements which could promote biotechnologies. We would be able to develop new drugs, diagnostic equipment, and new technologies which are so badly needed to hundreds of millions of our patients. I am very happy to hear that we will work very hard in order to make progress in developing the Savings and Investments Union. Thank you.
Commissioner Séjourné, we are now debating a topic that we launched in December. The Savings and Investment Union is an unfortunate name because citizens in my country, with the help of the extremists, understood that you want to take away their money from their accounts. We have to explain to our citizens what this union means. because the wrong message was sent to the citizens in many places, so there is no trust. And now people have said that we don't invest sufficiently and the investments go outside of Europe. And I'm an investor, so I know the psychology of investors. The investor goes where there is more safety and where he can trust that his money is safe. Through this package, we have to convey trust to the citizens and to the companies, especially to smaller companies. That way they will know that by investing, they will earn more money and they will earn more capital. But if there is no trust, of course, they will not invest. And there is another issue here. You say that there should be no fragmentation and we should have a true single market. We've been talking about the single market since I first came here in 2014, and maybe even before that. But the concrete measures that eliminate the obstacles, we still don't have those.
Minute for the catch the eye. Thank you very much, Mrs. Grappini. The next speaker is Sebastian Tinkinen. 1 minute.
Arvoisa puhemies.
President, we do not need regulation in the Union. This is the view of the Finnish financial sector, and it's 100% correct. In Europe, there is a desire to promote investment by citizens in this continent. This is a very worthy goal, but the Commission needs to be reminded of one thing. Promoting it does not mean regulating it. If we want Europeans to invest more in European companies, then, for example, in American companies, the situation is very clear. It should not happen through EU regulation. The solution to this situation can be found in the market economy. Our citizens have complete freedom to decide. They invest in companies that they believe will perform the best. If European companies are not believed to be able to compete with American companies, then our business environment is inferior. And when this is the case, we can only blame European politicians for this. Thank you.
Next speaker is Alexander Jungblut. Für 1 Minute bitte, Herr Jungblut.
Sehr geehrte Frau Präsidentin, zu wenige
Thank you very much, Madam President. Too little investment in the EU is perhaps because the framework for and the conditions for our economy are too bad. Too much regulation, too much red tape, and anti-industry environment. And the EU is responsible for this. And here, people say that we need to be more creative. We have to admit that this EU is not creative, because creativity in the EU means more regulations. And that's precisely what we don't need. What we need is fewer measures from the EU, because that will strengthen our economy, and a stronger economy will be the basis for more investment. Thank you.
The last speaker on the Catch the Eye is Kostas Papadakis.
Η κλιμάκωση του υπερελιστικού πολέμου των Ηνωμένων Πολιτειών και Ισραήλ.
The imperialist US-Israel war and the participation of the EU and member states in this war constitutes a real danger for the people of Europe. We could be a target of counterattacks. But there are also sacrifices that people must make. This war imposes policies that go against workers. Life becomes more expensive, and this Savings and Investment Union monster really is one way of digging deep into the pockets of workers and accessing their savings. We want to make a gift of European liquidity to big groups and monopolies. We do not want to see the people affected. We don't want salaries and pensions to be touched.
I'll pass the floor to Stefan Cironi on behalf of the Commission.
Danke, Madame Présidente. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you, Madam President. Thanks for this debate and your fairly broad support for these proposals. Perhaps I can come back to a number of doubts and questions and comments that were made during the debate. First of all, it is true that we've lost a great deal of time. Both European leaders although they are ready within the European Council, and as we drill down into governance procedures, we see that this situation has been blocked for years. We now need political agreement. When I say that the Savings and Investment Union is primarily a political project, I mean that it is up to us here in Parliament, at the Commission and at Council to drive this reform and these proposals politically. We see that as we drill down into the administrative level, well, there will always be reasons to oppose reform in all countries, of course, and so that's why we need the European Parliament's support today. There is a paradox here that we are trying to avoid, and that is the fact that European capital exists today. It often funds businesses, but it often funds US businesses and sometimes even European ideas on US territory that have had to be exported in search of capital. We need to keep European capital for European businesses. We need to make it flow more freely. We need Europe to become a stronger player thanks to well-performing capital markets that benefit a robust Europe. In any case, you can rely on the Commission to follow up the implementation of reforms on the national level and to take all necessary action to make sure that the Savings and Investment Union becomes a reality as soon as possible. The Commission will present new initiatives in 2027 to modernize the rules on venture capital and growth in Europe so that we can grow investment in the most innovative of businesses who are looking for capital in Europe, and so that we can make investments in the real economy, the economy that creates jobs and that allows us to stay at the forefront of global innovation and competitiveness in a number of sectors where we are subject to great competition. Encouraging investment in innovative businesses also means reflecting on the innovativeness of our European banking system. This report and the rules that stem from it will present some ways forward and proposals so that we can draft ambitious reform for the future of the banking sector. Thank you.
Floor to Marilena Rauna, Deputy Minister for European Affairs, please, on behalf of the Council.
President, honourable members, Executive Vice President, today's debate has demonstrated that the Savings and Investment Union is not an abstract concept, but a shared political priority that speaks directly to Europe's economic future. The Presidency welcomes the strong engagement demonstrated across this House. As we look ahead, let me reiterate that the Savings and Investment Union is not only about completing the single market for capital, it is also about strengthening Europe's capacity to act in a more competitive environment. If we want European companies to scale up, if we want innovation and talent to stay in Europe, if we want the green and digital transitions to be financed sustainably, we need deeper and more integrated capital markets. The Presidency will therefore continue to drive this agenda forward with determination and focus, committed to working closely with the Parliament to convert and transform this shared ambition into reality. The time to deliver is now, and together I am confident that we can ensure that the Savings and Investments Union becomes a cornerstone of Europe's economic strength for the years ahead. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Die Aussprache ist hiermit geschlossen.
That closes that debate. This brings us on to the next item of the agenda. That is the report by Mr. Agios Saliba. Package travel and linked travel arrangements make the protection of travellers more effective and simplify and clarify certain aspects. I'll first of all give the floor to the rapporteur, Mr. Agios Saliba. You have the floor for 4 minutes.
Thank you, President. For our voters, their holiday is the highlight of the year. Something they have to save money for, something that is planned well in advance, something to look forward to. But things can go wrong, and the holiday can be spoilt by a natural disaster, a pandemic that leads to travel restrictions, an armed conflict, something which is also unfolding right now in the Middle East, which disrupts our travel industry. And then there is the off chance that your travel organizer goes bankrupt after you did your own payment, or worse, while you are still on holiday and still need to come back home. This is no fiction, but unfortunately something that happened to thousands of European travellers affected by the Thomas Cook bankruptcy. And after the COVID-19 pandemic, we know what a medical emergency could once again resurface in the future and obviously face us again with similar problems that we face in the travel industry. In this world of uncertainty, we have one travel product that offers the best consumer protection, and that is EU law. The Package Travel Directive aims to ensure that you can book your package holiday with the peace of mind. And that is also why we are here in this Parliament, and we have adopted a number of resolutions that called on the Commission to draw the lessons learned from the past crisis. Now that we are at the end of this legislative procedure, it is a good moment, first of all, to thank the European Commission for its very ambitious proposal that helped me as a rapporteur. Not everything made it to the final text, like the proposed limit on prepayments. Even though this proposal made sense from a consumer protection perspective, there was no majority in this House. Because of the economic importance of the tourism sector and because we want to keep this product attractive to businesses to offer, we must balance out different legitimate interests which enhance the rights of consumers. And I believe that we succeeded in this effort. To name some things on which we will be voting tomorrow, first of all, we will clarify which packages are covered by the directive, and we grant protection to travellers who purchase from separate traders through linked online booking processes. We will improve information to travellers because the new rules clarify the information that you must receive before, during and after the trip. We introduce a mandatory complaint mechanism which is harmonising the deadlines. Each organiser must set up a complaint handling mechanism, confirm the receipt of the complaint within 7 days, and give a reasoned opinion within 60 days. New rules for vouchers as a response to organisers' practices to offer more protection to travellers when choosing and using vouchers. Vouchers should and will remain voluntary for travellers. The vouchers should be valid for a maximum period of 12 months, and travellers must be refunded in full or partially for unused vouchers. Voucher holders must be free to spend the vouchers on any travel service offered by the organisers, and vouchers will be covered also by insolvency guarantees. In the case of a trader's insolvency, travellers should be refunded within 6 months, but shorter deadlines may be established by member states. If unavoidable and extraordinary circumstances arise at the travel destination or departure point of a trip of affected journeys, there will be the right to cancel the trip without any penalties, with a full refund. As a rapporteur, I fought for a strong consumer rights in the revision of the Package Travel Directive, and with the help of my colleagues, the shadows and different political groups, whom I would like to thank for their cooperation, we achieved a lot. Fast and automatic cash refunds remain the rule, not vouchers. Future crises may not shift financial risks onto families, which we ensure through robust insolvency protection and better EU coordination. I look forward for the debate and hope that tomorrow I can count on your support. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much. And now I would like to welcome first our Commissioner Michael McGrath, and he will take the floor on behalf of the Commission for 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair, honourable members, dear Rapporteur, Mr Alex Saliba. The vital importance of tourism for the EU economy is undisputed. Along with the EU passenger rights regulations, the Package Travel Directive provides key consumer rights for travellers and a solid legal framework for operators. Overall, the Package Travel Directive of 2015 has worked well and has repeatedly proved its worth. However, it was necessary to address certain challenges that had arisen in its application, for instance in crisis situations such as the COVID-19 pandemic. Therefore, in November of 2023, the Commission proposed to revise the directive to make it more effective, to fill legal gaps and to clarify and simplify certain provisions. That proposal was presented on the same day as proposals in the field of passenger rights. I welcome the agreement reached last December by the European Parliament and the Council on the revised Package Travel Directive. The compromise text is in line with the objectives of the Commission's proposal and will make the EU package travel rules more effective. I would like to thank in particular the Rapporteur, Mr Alex Saliba, for his decisive role in this process, by first gaining broad support for a negotiating mandate and then conducting the negotiations with the Council and concluding them successfully. I'd also like to thank the shadow rapporteurs who, through their constructive approach, made it possible to secure this outcome. Of course, also the Council representatives and the positive approach of the Council presidencies played an important role in this process. The various compromises that needed to be found are positive for travellers and for travel businesses, in particular for the many small and medium-sized businesses, including micro-enterprises that we know are active in this sector in Europe. Those compromises will create a more complete and a clearer legal framework, but will also bring about significant simplification. The deletion of the concept of linked travel arrangements will significantly simplify the legal framework and will do away with 5 information forms. At the same time, the information of travellers on the kind of travel product that they are purchasing, package or standalone services, and on the rights that are related to the purchase of a package will now be a lot clearer. The new rules on vouchers for cancelled packages will provide more flexibility to business, in particular in a liquidity crisis, while offering solid guarantees for travellers, especially through the requirement of their express consent plus insolvency protection for open refunds. The new 7-day business-to-business refund right for cancelled travel services will strengthen the liquidity of package organisers, the vast majority of which we know are SMEs. It will therefore make it much easier for them to make refunds to travellers within 14 days. Important clarifications have been introduced in the rules on insolvency protection, and we've also improved the provisions on the termination of package travel contracts due to unavoidable and extraordinary circumstances, which will help travellers understanding their rights when facing difficult situations abroad. Finally, and based on amendments proposed by this Parliament, we will now have common standards on complaint handling, including the right of travellers to receive a reasoned reply within 60 days. As you can see, this provisional agreement will benefit both consumers and businesses with simpler and clearer rules while maintaining a high level of consumer protection. Therefore, I would like to encourage the members of this House to endorse the text provisionally agreed between the European Parliament and the Council. And once again, thank you all for your work on this file and your support, and I look forward to hearing your contributions now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner McGrath. And now I'll pass the floor to Jan-Christoph Oetjen.
Thank you very much, Madam President. Dear colleagues, Commissioner, as the rapporteur for this package travel directive, I'm very pleased. We got a good outcome. Package travel is beloved by families when they go on the holidays. So it's important to have a high level of consumer protection, which I think we've brought with this legislation, effective protections. We have made it clearer for the customers what is part of the package holiday, what's protected and what is not protected. So we haven't made as much progress on travellers, but you do have to provide more information and clarity for the customers and a high level of protection. So I think this is going to be very positive. We have a lot of big companies offering these package holidays. And all of this will be effectively protected for consumers. So this is very positive. Thank you very much. And next for the EPP, Andreas Schwab.
Yes, thank you, President, Commissioner, dear colleagues. First of all, I would like to support Mr. Urchin in what he said from the Transport Committee. The Internal Market Committee has also done a lot of work, and we managed to achieve a compromise. We have always emphasised that stronger consumer protection should not be implemented on the backs of SMEs or small travel agencies, because very often they're the ones that do offer these package holidays, the kind that, as Mr. Urchin said, families like to take. We have tabled amendments. We want a good, simple definition for package travel. Obviously, smaller travel agencies that have to be able to offer these package travel without additional elements being seen as part of that. So there are also sanctions. The sanctions, obviously, are thought for the larger companies. We do have quite a few small travel agencies, family travel agencies. We don't want to threaten their existence, but together with the rapporteur, we have, in English,
companies that are at the heart of the reform. I have to tell you that I'm not sure that the complaint handling mechanism is really something that they can deal with, because if you have two people in your office, how do you want to make a complaint handling system that is independently supervised? That will be a real challenge, and therefore I hope that we can still work it out in a way that for small and micro enterprises that you have been referring to, we find a way for the complaint handling to be as little red tape complaining as possible. And like that, liebe Frau Präsidentin, hoffe ich, dass...
And so, dear President, I do very much hope that we can garner a majority yesterday so that we can provide this solution for the small and medium-sized travel agencies.
The floor on behalf of S&D to Sergio Gonçalves.
Thank you, President. Commissioner, the European Parliament will this week take an important step forward to boost the protection of tourists when they go on package trips that are booked through, for example, travel agencies. Now, this makes things better for consumers, reduces costs for operators, and also clarifies matters, for example, what to do in cases of insolvencies, reimbursements, etc. Now, the tourism sector plays a key role in the European economy. Between 2 and 3 million tourist businesses and almost 11 million people who are directly employed in the sector. Now, this is a sector that is key for my country, Portugal, and my region, Madeira. And it's key for tourists to be able to rely on the fact that they get compensation or a fair reimbursement when something goes wrong on a trip. It's this trust that underpins the faith in the European tourist sector that is shown by so many people. Thank you.
EFE to Klára Dostálová.
Vážení kolegové.
Colleagues, we all agree on the fact that passenger protection is key, but this directive is not just about protecting consumers. It is also about supporting the functioning of the single market and the competitiveness of businesses. The objective here was to simplify the rules and respond to the experiences of recent years, the COVID pandemic, the bankruptcies of large travel agencies. However, I very much appreciate the new rules for handling customer complaints, which is part of this revision, and the new information requirements for online sales of services. There also will be improved rights for communication with consumers. In travel, there is a simpler rule. The best consumer protection is the one that people actually understand. I also have one other comment. Here we're introducing the obligation to return all the consumers' money in case of cancellations. However, when there are issues, it's the state budget that should take care of things. But I don't believe this is correct, that state budgets are to be responsible for one specific type of business. However, consumer protection is key, so I will be voting in favour. Thank you.
And now I pass the floor on behalf of ECR to Dennis Nishi.
Thank you, President. Commissioner, this directive is a significant step forward in updating European legislation on package travel. The idea is to ensure that it's more balanced and more in line with the realities of the sector. We welcome the agreement achieved through constructive dialogue between the institutions and intensive work. We've been pragmatic, boosting the faith of consumers and ensuring a more solid situation for the sector. The key political point is this: clearer rules, more transparent information, and clearer care for consumers and operators. In particular, we've got a more precise definition of package travel, and also the obligations to provide information go in the right direction too, because the consumers need to clearly know their rights. In addition, there are more balanced vouchers which are optional and can only be used with a consensus of consumers. In addition, unavoidable and extraordinary circumstances are mentioned, and we have dealt with this in a reasonable manner. To conclude, there are appropriate tools and appropriate timeframes for complaints and remedies. So this is Europe acting on behalf of its citizens. Thank you.
On behalf of Renew to Cynthia Nivoluhu.
Commissioner, Chair, thousands of people lost their money during the pandemic when travel companies went out of business. Flights were cancelled, hotels were cancelled, and there was complete confusion about who to contact in order to get your money back and to arrange another flight home. We remember how companies would blame other companies, and you would be passed around from Billy to Jack hearing the words, "That's not my problem." This meant lost money, wasted time, and distress, worry and stress suffered by every traveller and tourist in Europe. As the lead negotiator for Renew Europe on this revised law concerning package travel, I am pleased to say that the chaos that people experience is now over. Your money will no longer be at risk. If a company goes out of business, any vouchers you receive will be reimbursed, and money you paid in advance will be returned. There will be one single point of contact instead of half a dozen. This means simplification and streamlining for our travellers with this new law. For travel businesses and companies, it provides regulatory clarity, strict definitions, and certainty about compensation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Katrin Langen-Siepen.
Liebe Gäste, liebe Bürgerinnen und Bürger.
Visitors, citizens, what is Europe doing for you? It is helping to protect your rights. If you want to go on holiday, now we've seen what's happening in the Middle East right now, in a small country, perhaps Oman. If you were traveling there, we've seen what happens with war. It's very important to have consumer protection, and we have that through this directive. We were able to achieve quite a lot in this trilogue. When your trip is cancelled, you don't want to have just a voucher as a compensation. You want to have your trip refunded. So that's something you can do now. Your travel provider may have gone bankrupt. You will be protected and get your money back. So that is covered as well. Now, it is possible to have vouchers, but you would, of course, prefer to have your money back. So we've really achieved a lot for you. Thank you. Thank you very much to Mrs. Langensiepel. And now for the ESN, Mr. Bausemer.
Ja, vielen Dank.
Yes, thank you very much, President. The proposal directive gives a very clear definition of travel package travel, which means that travellers can be reassured and they're going to be protected in the case of an unpleasant surprise. But we have to be careful. Obviously, there are those, we have to look at the kind of services provided by the different companies. And there are certain businesses that are being neglected by the Commission. The idea of having this kind of overall package for package travel is a good one, but travel agencies, they may have a problem. If, for whatever reason, the traveller can have the travel refunded already when they've arrived, well, the conditions have to be very clearly defined. And obviously, we have to be careful and look out for the small and medium-sized travel agencies as well. It's all well and good having these well-structured proposals and provisions on paper, but if it means that it can't be implemented, we may end up with some companies disappearing from the market.
Gracias, President. Thank you, President. Commissioner. Tomorrow we'll be voting on the package travel directive update. The world is a more unpredictable one, so we need more guarantees as travellers, as businesses, and as workers. We've seen the need to adapt our legislation given the extraordinary situations we've been through, such as the bankruptcy of Thomas Cook and COVID. That's what led to this amendment of the directive. Now, as has been said, the problem, or the point, was to create a balance between consumers and businesses, and subsequent to negotiations with the Council and the Commission, we have made major improvements. I come from a country where the tourist sector is key and is mainly made up of SMEs. Well, it's important not to place overarching burdens over these businesses. We currently have the geopolitical instability that we're seeing, so it's important for us to protect consumers and businesses. As has been said, the key is in the confidence of consumers, and our consumers really need to